What happens when a township computer exposes private emails and an entire courtroom tries to figure out who's to blame?
For the record, please. Ian, IANHUBERT.
All right, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Do you recall the date of November the 15th, 2023?
I do.
At some point on that date, were you at the address of 827 North Zeeb Road in Ann Arbor?
That's the address of South Township. Yes.
You were at the Scioto Township Hall at some point on that day?
Yes.
And that's in Scioto Township,
Yes.
the county of Washtenaw in the state of Michigan? At some point on that day, did you see the defendant Jillian Carey at that same location?
Yes.
Did you see her using a computer?
The township hall meeting computer, yes.
What was she doing when she was using the township hall meeting computer at that location?
We were about to start a road commission meeting in Scioto Township. It begins at 6:30 in the evening. It's the first Wednesday of every month. And part of running that meeting, it's a public meeting, it's held with Zoom technology. And to start the Zoom meeting, you have to very often get a two-factor authentication code. So you launch Zoom, and it says, hey, we need two-factor authentication. It sends a 6-digit code to your email address. And at the time when I arrived at the meeting hall, Jillian Carey, Supervisor Carey, was trying to get that two-factor authentication code via her email.
What did she do or say while using that computer?
When I arrived, she said, Will's email keeps popping up. I said, what do you mean Will's email keeps popping up?
Did she say anything else to you after that?
I don't recall. I think at that point I had to have a look, which is what I would usually do with my background and experience, to try and understand what was going wrong. There's a lot of pressure at the beginning of these public meetings to get the Zoom system set up and running, because obviously it's a public meeting. I believe that it would be an infringement of Open Meetings Act not to have that Zoom call up and running. I happened to get there late that day, and if you're getting there late that day, you're on a back foot trying to get the meeting started.
And there's only the one computer, correct?
There is only one computer in the meeting room that is connected, just like in this room where it's connected to the cameras and all the meeting system. Yes, so it's a Dell laptop.
Gunnar, may I have a moment, please?
You may.
Later, did you assist in deleting Will Hathaway's email off of that computer?
I didn't delete his email.
What did you do?
I removed the profile. So what that really means is, if you have a computer, publicly accessible computer.
Let's pause there for just 1 second, because I think that's an important piece of this. This is a laptop that has a username and password on a sticky note, right?
That's correct. Anybody can go into that. I mean, they shouldn't, but in theory, they could walk up to that computer and log into that computer. There is a sticky note right next to the computer that has the username and password.
And when a person does that and logs on to this computer using this sort of general username and password, they can also log into their specific accounts. Is that what you're saying?
So, for example, if you were starting a Zoom meeting, when you launch the Zoom client, you wouldn't be logged in because different people log in to start their Zoom meetings. So by logging into that laptop, generally most services provided to it or that it offers, you would have to log in to the respective service, such as Zoom. If you were collecting email and you were collecting email on a web-based client, then you would have to sign into that.
But if it were not a web-based client, if it were a program on the machine like Outlook, someone could log into that and a different person could log in and that same first person's email would still be in, is what you're saying.
There's two types of emails. There's a browser-based email, and there's a thick client, we would call it, that is actually stored locally on the computer, and all the emails, they're duplicated, they're stored locally on the computer, and also they're stored in Microsoft Cloud. If you were to install the desktop client and want to use that at some point in the history of that computer, you would have to log in with your credentials to authorize that Outlook desktop client to receive that person's email.
Okay. Got it. Thank you very much. 1 second, please, Your Honor.
Oh, what'd you say?
May I just have 1 second, please, Your Honor? Thank you. Pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Huber. Do you have a background in computers?
I would say yes. For the last 30 years, I've been working in the software industry. Very proud of what we do. We just accomplishment of landing the Mars rover on planet Mars using the software that I work with and the people that I'm lucky enough to work with. So yeah, I'd say I have a fairly deep technical understanding of computers, the code behind them, how they work, how they communicate. Yes.
And how long have you known, did you see Jillian here in court today? Do you see?
Yes.
Okay. And she's sitting where I just stood up from. For the record, could it reflect that the witness is identified?
On November 15th, 2023, a heated courtroom in Michigan dove into a surprisingly technical mystery. A township supervisor was accused of accessing a shared government computer, one that still had a former official's email logged in. The question, was it an innocent mistake during a public Zoom meeting, or something much more serious? As the witness explained, that single laptop could open anyone's inbox with one simple click.
Ms. Carey, Your Honor.
Record show so reflect.
Thank you, Your Honor. And how long have you known Ms. Carey?
5 or 6 years.
Okay. And have you gone to meetings with her before where she was using the shared Scioto Township laptop?
In the capacity of the road commission, yes.
Okay. And based as someone who knows has been involved with computers for so long and has an expertise, did she appear to you to be someone who was very knowledgeable about computers?
Just to speculation as to his opinion and her knowledge.
Sustained, you need more foundation.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Was there a reason that you would try to come early to the weekly road advisory commission or committee meetings?
I always try to get there early.
Why?
Because I tend to like to take control setting up the meetings. Because I know how to do it and I work my way around it. Happened that day, I was running late. My daughter had run away. So I got there a little bit later than usually I would have done.
Okay. Did you get there approximately about 6:09 p.m.? Do you recall what time you got there?
I recall on that day that I actually, as I was driving there, I pulled into the wrong entrance. I actually pulled into the Montessori school next door, which further delayed me. I have a geofence on my house, so I know when I come and go.
Okay.
And I think the point that I left, I could look it up, it was 6 minutes after 6.
Okay. How far do you live from the township hall?
Probably 3 to 4 miles, it's kind of 8 to 10 minutes, I want to say. We live on a dirt road, so that's fairly slow.
All right. When you got to the township hall, tell us what happened when you got there. What did you do? And I'm talking, of course, for the record, Your Honor, about the evening of November 15th, 2023 at the Scioto Township Hall. Thank you. You can proceed. What did you do when you got there,
I
Mr.
actually
Huber?
had a new laptop. So I didn't have, that laptop wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi. So I think the first thing I did was I took a photo of the Wi-Fi password and got the laptop set up, got the code in for it. And I honestly don't remember if Gillian had said Will's email keeps popping up first, or whether I did my laptop. I would imagine I probably tended to that first. And obviously, when we host that Zoom meeting, I make myself a co-host on the Zoom meeting.
You're the co-chair, by the way, of the road advisory. You were at the time.
Co-chair. So I co-host that meeting so that I can sit in the meeting with all the other participants. I recall on that day that I was up at the computer a little bit longer. I was concerned that Supervisor Hathaway's email was publicly exposed.
Why did that concern you?
Because it's a huge no-no. You don't ever, it's like walking into an internet cafe and leaving your email on that computer for anybody to have access to that email client. So I realized that it had the Outlook desktop client on the computer.
Let me stop you there, because you distinguished between I think you distinguished in your direct testimony between the Microsoft Outlook desktop versus a web-based Microsoft Outlook where you just put in your credentials anywhere at any location, correct?
Yeah, it might get a little bit more technical if that's okay, but I'll try and explain the difference.
Well, yeah, if you could can you try to keep it at 30,000 feet, maybe, if you can?
At high level, if I walk up to any computer in this room and bring up a web browser like Outlook, like Safari or Chrome or Firefox or Microsoft Edge, I can go to a URL, I can log into that computer and I can look at my email. And sometimes we might remember historically that it would say, are you using a private computer or are you using a public computer? And if you're using a public computer, as soon as you log in, it will get rid of the tokens. It will literally get rid of the keys that are the two-factor authentication. That are the authentication keys.
Okay.
If you tell it you're on a private computer, it will keep them for a little bit longer. And so that's the web-based application. Depending on how you use it, it changes behavior. With the desktop application, that is what we often call a thick client. You have to install it. You have to use a username and password. And once they've been put into that computer, they are stored in perpetuity. Unless you're working for a corporation such as I do, where we are forced over a period of time to re-authenticate with a two-factor code. Scioto Township was not set up that way.
And let me stop you before you keep going further on that. You said, I think in your direct testimony, that you found that Will Hathaway had somebody, and I don't know, do you know who installed the Microsoft Outlook client onto that shared Scioto laptop?
So I would imagine that it was whoever was running the IT department.
Do you know someone named Chris Bailey?
I do, yes.
Who is Chris Bailey?
He's the IT director, I believe, at Scioto Township.
And when you have a Microsoft client installed on a publicly used computer, if someone were to, the person that had their profile installed on this public computer, if they left themselves signed in to their Outlook, what would happen if any other unsuspecting person walked up and clicked on that icon for Microsoft Outlook?
Anybody can access that email account.
But
Anybody.
what would you expect to physically happen though if you clicked on was there an icon for Microsoft Outlook, do you recall? If you remember.
I believe, but I'm not totally sure that it was on the taskbar. So the taskbar is at bottom of the Windows system that has icons on it.
Okay. So if you were, let's say Will Hathaway in this case, because you said that he had that installed, correct? He had the Outlook.
In the small township of Scio, a public meeting turned into a digital scandal. Inside the courtroom, witnesses described how a simple computer login may have breached private government emails. The defense called it confusion. The city called it negligence. With every question, the tension built. Who left the email open, and who really crossed the line?
Form of the question, I'm not sure I understand what the question is.
I'll rephrase it. It wasn't a very well worded question, I admit. Did you come to learn by looking at the computer that evening that Mr. Hathaway had an Outlook client installed on that laptop?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to object as to form. I think the question is if the person had it installed, had his client installed.
It was installed on there,
Right, like
correct,
that's the question.
but it's not.
There.
We don't know, you have no personal knowledge as to who did it.
I don't. All I know is that Outlook was installed on that computer, and somebody had set up Will Hathaway's.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, but you don't know who did that. So the answer to the question is it was installed. And
I'm not trying to get at to who
Go ahead.
installed it. I'm just getting at the fact that it was installed. You confirm that. And my question is, hypothetically, given your experience in your field, if someone were to click on, if Will Hathaway had not logged out of his Outlook client that was installed on that jointly used computer, that laptop, would you expect that if that Outlook was accessed by any other person, that it would open directly to Will Hathaway's email?
Chairman objects to the foundation form of the question. This witness has not been qualified as an expert. He cannot give an opinion of things that he doesn't have personal knowledge about, which is the other part of my objection. He doesn't have personal knowledge about what happened if you would click on this. He has personal knowledge about the profile being logged in. He has personal knowledge about the defendant being there. He has personal knowledge about many things, but he's not been qualified as an expert, nor does he have personal knowledge about clicking on that specifically.
I'm going to overrule that objection. I'm going to allow his answer.
Do you need me to say the question again?
I'm a little bit confused as to where we
All
are.
right, I'll just start over maybe.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Re-ask.
So let's say that Mr. Hathaway, let's say you already testified Will Hathaway had the Microsoft Outlook client installed. Not saying he installed it, but it was installed on the laptop. That's number one, correct?
That is.
And then, so the number two is if Will Hathaway had used that computer to check his emails and he left it open, that is, he didn't log out, would you expect that whoever came next and tried to open that Outlook would open directly into his email?
Yes.
Okay. And those icons, have you seen the icons that appear on, you said it was on the taskbar, you believe, of the shared laptop?
Yes.
And those icons, do they say Will Hathaway's email next to them?
No.
So would anyone have any way to know that it was Will Hathaway's email just by looking at the icon? And when you approached Jillian Carey, what was she doing? Did you come up to her physically when she was trying to get the authentication code as you testified to start the Zoom?
Initially, and then I said, "Can I take a look?"
Okay. And when you said, "Can you take a look?" Did she turn the screen away from you? Did she try to hide what she was doing in any way? Did you get the impression that doing anything illegal or that she was nervous about you seeing what she was doing?
No, just to reference, when you're setting up a Zoom meeting for a public meeting, it's incredibly stressful.
Okay.
Incredibly stressful.
And then, had you helped her in the past start the Zoom meetings?
I usually try to get there early so I can do it.
Prior to November 15, 2023, do you know if Jillian Carey had ever done the Zoom herself? If you know.
No,
If you know, I don't want you to guess.
maybe, but usually I'm there early enough to do it.
Okay. So you don't know if she's ever even done that before on her own, start the Zoom meeting. Certainly, was this the first time that you saw her attempting to start a Zoom meeting on November 15th, 2023?
I think so.
What did you do after you saw her trying to get her authentication code from her email and saying that Will's keeps popping up? What did you do after that?
I will often log in to Gillian's. She has an account, which is racchair@cytotownship.com. I have the credentials for that email account. So what I will usually do is log into her email account to fetch the two-factor authentication. Because when we're logging in with her racchair@cytotownship.org account. And so the email goes to that account. Where I will often go in and collect it. Like that to the 6-digit two-factor authentication code.
And did you do something? You asked questions about this, I think, on direct. Did you do something to fix what you? Well, hold on. Did you do something that night to try to fix a problem? Just ask you that generally, if you recall.
So with Outlook, it doesn't just, you don't log out. So Outlook, the desktop client, it's not like a web-based interface where there's usually up on the right-hand side, you go to your profile and you do log out. That doesn't exist in Outlook desktop, because Outlook desktop is intended for it's intended that it's protected by the login credentials of the computer. So there's no such thing as a logout when you go into Outlook desktop.